Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio, this edition of Midweek Geek. I am your mental curator, as always, Johnny Hamburger. And boy, if the museum is our mind, the exhibit I have to show you and discuss with you today is one of the most absurd I have yet to bring up on Geek Therapy Radio, but I've been super excited to do this episode because while it is ridiculous, I think the thought exercise is actually fairly stimulating. Wink, wink, and you'll know what I mean in a second here. When heavier than air machines were proposed, people thought it's impossible. There's no way. What a ridiculous notion. Let's go to the moon. What a ridiculous notion. I'm not even beginning to compare what we're discussing here to going to the moon or the Wright brothers' first flight. It's actually going to take every fiber of my being, all the strength that I have with everything that I am, not to get extremely juvenile with this, because I know this is a family program. I try to keep it rated PG. What I want to talk about today is getting space pregnant. I'll let that sink in for a second because it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Putting our genetic material into space. So let me frame this up a little bit. I had this wacky thought. I forget what I was watching. Maybe I was watching something about SpaceX or some scientist talking about the survival of the human species. I think it's one of those astronomy shows on like the Discovery Channel or on Netflix or something like that. But it was about leaving our planet in the best hope for human survival once the sun gets too hot and everything like that. Not necessarily global warming, but once the sun goes through its death cycles, we need to expand across our galaxy to ensure the survival of the human species. And that planted a seed in my mind. That impregnated my brain with a thought. What if we sent human sperm and eggs out into the cosmos? Let's try to get space pregnant. So that brings up a few dilemmas, a few principles to discuss, a few issues, so to speak. You can't just obviously put semen and eggs, worst breakfast ever, out into space and just my gosh, the puns, I can't avoid it. Just shoot it out there. It's not going to survive. So we're going to have to think about how to encapsulate eggs and semen together, frozen, preserve them. How long? What's the viability of frozen genetic material? Is there any way to extend the viability of human genetic material? And even, let's say this all works, and I'll get back to kind of the struggles with that in a second. Let's say that this actually works, and in however many years, millennium, millions of years, thousands of years, whatever, our little capsule of human genetic material, basically the ingredients for human life, makes its way to whatever planet or whatever star base or something like that out there that the aliens have. And the little capsule has a note on it. It has some notes and like directions basically of how to put the two together and how to incubate and hopefully produce a human baby on an alien world, in an alien civilization. That's really fascinating to think about. So one of the more fascinating things I thought is, would we still ensure, it would be weird to have ensured the survivability of the human species if, let's say, we shoot out these loads of human genetic material all across the galaxy. My gosh, I'm trying not to laugh right now. And let's say even 1 year after the last human on Earth goes extinct. We're dead. Humans are gone. Humans have gone extinct. Let's say 1 year after that, an alien life form takes that genetic material that we shot out into space 1,000 years ago, 1,000,000 years ago, and puts it together. That first human born we'll have, depending on what we leave in the capsule, almost no recollection of it. It'll never meet another human, probably, maybe. So maybe we can include genetic material for a boy and a girl so that they can mate. And that's kind of an Adam and Eve style thing. Maybe that's what happened on Earth. I'm talking about incest and things. We're gonna have to figure that stuff out. But let's say the humans survive, but the humans that went extinct will never know that our species survived, because the next human born was born a year after, or 1,000 years after the last original human died. So to preserve our species, we'll have no idea that we ever preserved our species. Isn't that interesting to think about? This is what Geek Therapy Radio is all about. I feel like I'm hitting a stride here, or this is kind of the groove of what Geek Therapy Radio is supposed to be about. There's a few other dilemmas, not just to mention like what I touched on, the technical issues of how do you keep human sperm and eggs viable and provide some sort of details or some sort of more ingredients to make a artificial placenta or anything like that to bring a human baby to term in an alien world by an alien species. That's all the technical stuff to figure out, and we may not figure that out, although artificial placentas have been, I think they brought a lamb to term recently in an artificial placenta. So we got to figure out all the technicals, of course. We'll let Elon Musk figure that out. I could do my own research, but my wife won't probably let me use the freezer for that. Anyways, is it going to be ethical? Is this going to be ethical? What are the ethics behind it? For what I said, it's if an alien species brings a human baby to term and raises a human baby, what's to say that alien species isn't just going to basically torture that human, basically keep it in a cage all its life and torture it and conduct experiments on it? What's the guarantee? There is no guarantee that this alien life form, that this alien civilization is going to be ethical as far as our human ethics, our human understanding of ethics are concerned, are going to be ethical with that child and with that human. They may just use it. It's just a guinea pig. They're going to be poking and prodding it, torturing its entire life, because they're not going to know our threshold for pain. They're not going to know any of our psychological limitations. They're not going to know anything like that about us. So their seemingly innocuous, innocent tests might be disastrously torturous to whatever baby they bring to term in an alien civilization. So there's that whole part of it. I think the biggest roadblock here is just the technicals. You got to think about what's the nearest star to us. I think it's Alpha Proxima. What is it? If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put a little tag below of what it actually is. But I think that's 4.5 light years away. Let's say there's a planet around there and there's intelligent life forms there, and we aim at the nearest star that we know of. We aim at the nearest stars. I think that's a good starting point. Aim at the nearest stars that we know of to shoot our cargo, I'll just say, towards those stars, and hopefully that has a planet, and hopefully it hits the planet and orbits, like we get their attention somehow, that we've basically shot our seeds into space. That's kind of a cool idea, because it requires that a human doesn't have to go into some sort of stasis. Like if we try to put a human on a distant world, the first distant world we discover with life, can they survive the journey? Remember, what's that, Martian, where by that time they figured out how to make people stay asleep for however many years for the ride. You wouldn't have to do that if you just sent the actual building blocks, sperm and an egg, and shot it out there. You wouldn't have to do that. So that would solve that problem. But then there's the problem of how would you get the alien species to put them together and make a human? So the technicals, we would have to figure out at least how to keep it viable for several decades, I would say. And then, because it's going to take years and years, at the very minimum, decades to get to our closest neighboring star. So we're going to have to figure that out, how to make the sperm and sperms and eggs viable. That's not to say a little lipstick container couldn't contain, 1,000 different sperms from 1,000 different fathers, and then thousands of different eggs from thousands of different mothers, so that that will get around the incest problem. Just make breed a whole crop of humans so that they can interbreed and everything without worrying about the incest. But what do you guys think? I've rambled on long enough. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments below. I think it's a rather fascinating thought exercise. This is the kind of stuff that keeps me awake at night thinking about these things. That sounds really weird to say. And like I mentioned at the beginning, on the surface, it seems like a very juvenile statement, a very juvenile idea. Let's get space pregnant. But no, I'm serious. Seriously, what would it take to have a human born in a different intelligent civilization somewhere in the stars? And perhaps that's the best way, one of the safest ways, I should say, to ensure the survival of the human species. Whether or not we originally go extinct before the next human is born, that's regardless. That's irrelevant, I guess. It's one of our best shots to preserve the human species' survivability, so that maybe one day the next humans will make their home among the stars. Hopefully they find a civilization of intelligent beings that doesn't just torture us unmercifully. Just because we have our ethics and our morals doesn't mean another civilization has the same ones. They might not line up with our morals and that we know in 2019. Anyways, thanks for listening to Geek Therapy Radio, this episode of Midweek Geek this week. I hope you had fun at least thinking about it. And let me know if you're exactly, like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments below kind of what you think about this. Do you have any ideas regarding this? I think it's a fun thing to talk about. I love you all. Be good to each other. I hope you guys are all doing well. All you guys and gals and all my geeks and geekettes out there. Hope you're doing well. Lean into your geek thing. Embrace your geek thing. Sometimes that's all we have to kind of help us out of the sad spots of life. So hope you're doing well. Lean into your geek thing. And I will see you guys in the next one.